Onion Cycles podcast is about thought-provoking, emotion-evoking, action-driven, step-by-step guidance to explore the unique, glorious, and wonderful ocean of your being. Because healing is a multi-layered process of getting to know oneself. Become the self-empowered empiric researcher by discovering the unique layers of your existence. With your host, Nadine Alma, welcome to the Holistic Healing Hub. Welcome to the Onion Cycles podcast. If I could start over from the beginning, I would start with the most invisible, the threads in the web of our ecosystem that are rarely named, much less revered. I would start by listing the names of the trees, the flowers, the seeds that carry the light that give us life, because this is what we have forgotten. This is where our reverence has not yet reached. I would start with frankincense and myrrh, with the boswellia and commiphora trees that made them. I would start with the honeybee and the sweet essential nectar it feeds on. I would start first with what goes unnoticed, with what we haven't realized is the most sacred among us. I would start with the names of everyone we've excluded, of the street children, of the millions slowly starving to death in plain daylight. I would start with the outsiders, the outcasts. I would start with every one of us who thinks we aren't worthy of love just as we are. I would say each of their names, each of our names, who have been made into objects, who have been violated, who have had to survive by leaving the body altogether. I would list the names of all the mothers who have known the unspeakable joy of gradually knitting life within her, of bringing life from the dark into the light. The mothers who have no idea where their heart is anymore, now that it's also outside of them. The mothers who remind us, no matter who we are, that our first country was a woman's body, and our first element was water, and that our first reality was darkness. If I could write the beginning, it wouldn't be in the light. It would be in the womb, in the dark, in a cave, in an egg. It would be to name all that has been left out of what's holy, the blood, the body. Nothing real or imagined has ever happened without it. If I could start again, I would install an altar within me. I would place the most sacred object inside it, my own heart. If I could start again, I would know that the only cathedral I've ever needed to find, to enter, to return to again and again, is this humble red hermitage, this mystical space that holds all the answers. I would begin again inside my heart, and I would live this way, speaking from it. We want to know what might happen next, and for everything to remain exactly the same. This is what we have forgotten. The first power, darkness. Hello and a warm, warm welcome to all of you out there, my beloved fellow healing, integrating onions. Welcome to another episode. This is Story 24, episode 25, and I have been quoting from the book Mary Magdalene Revealed by Meggan Watterson, because as I have made the introduction in last week's episode, we are going to discuss what Mary Magdalene calls the 7 powers of wrath. And today, it's the first power, it's darkness. And I want to say ahead of time that if this doesn't resonate with you, so if you feel any kind of reluctance, if you feel anything inside your body that makes you feel like you don't want to listen to that, that's absolutely fine. You can come back whenever you feel drawn to it, and for now it's absolutely all right to get away from it and do something that feels good to you. Darkness. The perception of darkness in today's society is everything scary, everything unknown, everything dangerous. there is something lurking and creeping, and basically it's like a horror movie. And so to me, there is a spectrum of what darkness means. It's not just one thing. As we so often mention in this podcast, everything is a spectrum. Everything is a fragment of different perceptions. If you ask one person, what does darkness mean to you, they might say, oh, the night sky and the stars and seeing the universe and planets and mystical happenings and all of this wonder and glory that the other half of a day has to offer. And then others would say exactly what I said before: it's scary, it's unknown, there is something lurking, I'm in danger. And I feel like with this first power of wrath, that is exactly the contradiction that will help us understand how valuable darkness is. I would welcome it wholeheartedly if you share in the comments what your experience is, what you think about this episode, because what I always say, sharing is caring. There might be someone out there who needs to read exactly what you have had in your heart and wrote out into the world. So don't be shy. If you feel drawn and called to do it, please do. It might help someone else. And if you're new here, welcome to this sacred space of becoming our own self-empowered empiric researcher of our own being and existence, of knowing oneself. The worksheet will contain notes of each and every episode, and it will also hold some exercises, because in this podcast I'm trying to stress that it is very important for real change to happen, to live by the motto, the credo of as I think, so I feel, so I act. Therefore, there are action-based exercises on each week's worksheet for you to implement the message on a level that it has more depth than just listening and feeling what is being talked about. It's also very individual, so it is advisable to do these exercises because no one of us is the same. There is an individual path for every one of us. So therefore, all of the exercises will be very personal, intimate to you. So with that said, the perception of darkness is contradictory, and I think that is a valuable first lesson. The wisdom of darkness is that there is no light without it. If we hadn't had darkness, we wouldn't know what light is. We wouldn't even need light because there would just be nothing. Darkness is the culmination of all light. It's sort of a space where void can happen, where stillness can happen, where equilibrium even can happen. It's a universe where polarity and duality and binary codes make up our lived reality, and that, as a fact from science, means that there is not anything really to fear or something to get rid of or ignore or avoid or be scared of. It is easier said than done. That is for sure, because if you haven't done it a few times, diving into your own darkness and acknowledging that what is above is also below, meaning that if there is darkness and void and unknown and scariness and lurking out there, it's also within. There comes anxiety, there comes panic, all the pain that we've experienced and accumulated over a lifetime will be shown in that darkness if you dive in there. But if you also know that this is part of life, that this is a universal law, that this is something that you were equipped to work through, that you were made even to acknowledge and live through, then you know nothing really can happen to you, even though your body might react like it is a life and death situation. We've talked in another episode about how we either fight, flight, or freeze in the episode called Procrastination. If you feel called to re-listen to this or to it for the first time, please feel free to do that after listening to this episode. And what that teaches us is that even though it might be scary and it might be painful and hurtful to go into the darkness and experience what we have repressed, there's also really no choice. There's no other way. I mean, technically, you have free will, and yes, you can go through life being governed by that darkness and avoiding everything that feels uncomfortable, everything you don't want to feel, everything that causes you pain. Either way, it is your free will. I personally have made that crossroads and gone the way of healing or integrating because I was very exhausted from trying to continuously repress and depress and compress and suppress everything that didn't feel comfortable and everything that I thought I couldn't face. And I had the luck of having a very dear person in my life who, at some point when there was no going straight forward anymore, asked me, this is your crossroads. Do you want to go to one side and continue your life, continuously relapsing in this depression and exhaustion and this unhappiness and this discontent, or do you want to go the other way and you want to look at it and you want to start healing and get better and actually not get better in that sense, but actually be able to try and accept happiness into your life. Experience happiness. Let happiness or lightheartedness or joy or bliss enter your life. So the wisdom of darkness is that there is no light without it, and once we accept that polarity and duality that is within our universe, and once we accept that nothing can happen to us because there is a part of this stardust within each and every one of us, we came here equipped with everything we already need. We're not broken. That's why some call it integration and not healing. We're not broken. We are exactly who we need to be and meant to be in this moment. However, because of this free will, if you feel down, if you feel the darkness enveloping you, if you feel that coldness, that heaviness, that hopelessness, that numbness, that time passing you by, that no interest whatsoever in participating in a life outside. It doesn't mean you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're broken, it just means that you have an opportunity to look at this darkness and look at this void and maybe find out a whole different picture about yourself. This is a possibility, an opportunity. This is something that indeed opens you up to look and decide anew. Who do I want to be? Do I want to be this thing? Or do I picture something? Is there something in my heart that I want to change? Is there something in my mind which I think would make my life precious again? And this is the reframing of darkness. I think in our society there is a lot going on right now, which basically is a good thing because it's drawn into the perception of many that we have to heal, we have to look, we have to talk about it, we have to journal about it, we have to go into that darkness, into that pain in order to heal. And that is a good thing. What I want to contribute to this conversation is the very basic aspect of reframing the word darkness and what it means. Because so many just struggle in their life because they're death scared, because they've been told that everything unknown is unsafe, and everything unknown means insecurity, and everything unknown means that there will be more pain, and just not looking will avoid the emotions coming up. And there's obviously truth to that, but if we look closely, we see that everyone who has gone through that darkness and emerged into the light again, those are the ones we look for to comfort us, to let us know what it means to go through this. They are, I think, as Tony Robbins calls them, bridge builders. So they go through that valley and build a bridge, and trying to help others go over that bridge. And for some, that bridge are some techniques, are some tools that they get from the therapist, from the spiritual guru, from meditation, from ancient history, from ancient texts and practices. And others have to go through that valley themselves to really grasp the concept. However, what all of this leads us to consider is that our society really needs to re-evaluate what darkness is and appreciate the duality it has to offer. So if darkness means something like being cold, being lonely, the unknown, scariness, painful, it's wet, it's uncomfortable, it's noises without the eyes being able to perceive if it's danger, if it's nothing serious, then you could also say, well, it is cold, but it is quiet. And that might be scary if you're never quiet. If the constant hustle and bustle and social media and news and family and all these energy lines that draw you outside of yourself, and you've never experienced what it means to be calm and to be quiet, then that's the first step to take, is to not be scared of that quietness and implement it into your life by consciously deciding, okay, I'm going to time myself. I'm going to sit on this chair for 3 minutes. I'm not going to have meditation music. I'm not going to have anything. I'm just going to try and breathe. And over time, you will see that this second kind of gratification, the one that is delayed, that might feel uncomfortable in the now, actually turns out to be a blessing in the future. Because you might have just expanded on 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and then suddenly 3 months pass and you realize that you actually look forward to those 10 minutes of just quiet and connecting with your body and connecting with your soul and connecting with yourself and checking in with you. If you feel like this is the unknown and it is so scary and I don't want to dive in, you might think that, all right, I could develop some courage. I'm going to put aside an hour, half an hour per week, maybe even, sit down and journal about my inner pain. I'm going to address it to dear inner child, or I'm going to address it to dear me 3 years ago. Look where we are now. Look how this depth of pain that we experienced, where it has gotten us. Or dear me 5 years in the future. Now we are sad. We are numb. We don't have joy and we don't know what's going on. But there is some speck of hope within my heart that in 5 years' time, when I look at you, that we have gone out of this and that we have befriended what so many people call depression or anxiety or whatever it is you suffer from. We have learned that we are not broken. We have learned that what is happening to us is a gift, and working through it enables us to aid others on their journey too. I think it was Professor Peter Patterson, who said that if you're depressed, you don't necessarily need to look closer. You just need to take care and take responsibility for someone or something else. He said if you're depressed, then you don't have a purpose. And sometimes the purpose of self-love or self-care or healing what has been ailing us within isn't the cure. Sometimes it's just the action of helping someone else. So considering this, maybe this loneliness that you experience in this darkness and depression can evolve into going out once a week with a dog from the shelter and just giving that dog an hour of your time that brings them joy and will enrich your life. Or if you feel the most lonely and depressed and you're standing by the cashier and you think, right, this is rock bottom. I slowly lose my breath. I feel the tightness closing in. I need to do something out of the habit just to get me out of this pattern. I will absolutely buy a cake for the barista. And her surprise and her laughter and her smile will get you maybe out of that habit. It's just about holding yourself accountable that, all right, I will try and reframe darkness for myself and whatever it means now into the opposite and see what it does with my life, because that's self-empiric studying. That's how you find out what works for you and what doesn't, and that will eventually then, on the action-based, on the action-driven approach, get you to where you never could have imagined to be, because you didn't do anything different up until now. There's a chance, if we reframe depression, if we see the duality of darkness as a possibility to explore, to examine closely, to experience timelessness and tune out of this societal pressure of working hours and vacation days and years and months and weeks and days, and how everything is tacted and everything has to be agreed upon a time. There is no space for spontaneity. There is no space for timelessness. So maybe that is what darkness wants to teach you. Maybe it is to think deeply, to see clearly, to be able to go into this void that opens up the space and the timelessness, to look closely at what is hurting me. Why am I triggered by this? If you feel into your body and if you take the time to take yourself and your intuition and your feelings and emotions at face value and take them seriously, that is self-care, that is self-love. In that moment, you put yourself on top and say, I am not feeling like I want to feel. And thus I look. What is array? And this assembling yourself will aid you moment to moment, day to day. And it is, I'm sorry to say, I believe, a never-ending journey. Because once you experience how you can create and frame your own reality, create and frame and shape who you want to be, it's kind of addictive. Because you realize, right, there's nothing I can't do. Whatever I feel, even if I realize a dream and feel empty within, I know that, okay, but I've crafted this dream and this reality, so what do I want to craft and realize next? And yes, it is work. But then again, do you want to work to stay the same? Or do you want to work and become who you really want to be? And that is the free will question you have to ask yourself when you try and attempt to reframe darkness. And then lastly, I had the words depression connected to repression and suppression versus expression. That is because I'm drawn to a science that studies language. It's called etymology. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, that is something I can recommend highly. It's very interesting how we use words and where they come from and what their original meaning was and how it is used in today's society. So I feel like it's very interesting that the word depression and repression and suppression, everything of that means something of the same sort and is total contradictory to not happiness but expression. I've heard that before, that it's not actually happiness we're striving to experience in our life when we're depressed. It's actually we're making ourselves so small and worthless and numb because that's the only safe space we knew. That's the only time we were safe within ourselves, is when we were drawn back into our cocoon in our shell and didn't really exist. And the absolute difference to that is expression, is letting out who you are, is knowing who you are and living your authenticity. And I, for my part of the journey that I'm on. The hardest part of it all was always shedding what I thought I knew who I was. It was always like, all right, so I'm actually not happy. Why am I not happy? Why I'm not content? Oh, it's because I'm living something that is not in alignment with myself. Well, then is what is in alignment? And that takes so much time and so much energy to first of all not condemn yourself by saying that I should know, I should have figured it out, because quite frankly, no one has figured it out. There are so many people who claim that this is the way and this is the technique and this is the coping mechanism to get out of whatever ailment does pain you. But in fact, we're all constantly learning. Expression is what is being held down and now is able to open up a new world to you and to your soul by saying that actually I am worthy to be heard, I am worthy to be seen. It is a long journey, and I might at times be 3 months back in my cocoon, but that one evening where I got up from my bed and drew a picture just for the sake of drawing, that is my expression, and that is the beginning of stepping into my power and understanding that what has been given to me in the form of darkness is actually just a way to get to know a self that I have up until this point been made to feel ashamed about, been made to feel unworthy about, been made to feel like this isn't good. That doesn't mean I'm cured from that sense of depression, because as of now I've tried to see darkness and numbness as a sign that can be interpreted in multiple ways. For example, there is the way of saying, right, this darkness right now tells me that my energy levels are on the ground and I just need to rest. And that is okay. Everyone around me goes further in their normal lives doing their stuff. I can't. That doesn't mean I'm weak. That doesn't mean I'm less worthy than them or less valuable than them. It just means for a long time I haven't given me the rest I needed, and now I'm gonna do that and take care of that. That can mean, oh, I just need to eat something, and it can also mean, all right, I'm triggered from something traumatic that have been caused in my childhood. What I'm trying to say is that expression is individual. It's mentally denouncing that you are capable and that you have a spirit and a spark no one else has. It's physical, paralyzed numbness made into a tool of seeing what lies within you. Depression, it's spiritual without purpose. It's a sense of inner belonging or outer community to guide you. It's mirroring who you are and that you have a place among humans, but you have suppressed what makes you special and what makes only you able to occupy that place within the realms of community, that you are needed, you're special, you're divine, and you're human at the same time. It's a loss of your voice, your inner guidance, a loss of expression of who you are, a lack of clarity. It's withdrawal from all you've ever known to be truth. But you feel like that because the darkness has a void, a stillness, a timelessness to look closer at exactly what you feel, what you think, and how that is affecting your way of life. To close this episode that is dear to my heart because it is a very long chapter of my own life, and I do truly think once you befriend your depression or your darkness, I call it darkness, I like to call it darkness more than depression. It is a very wise friend that then only comes up in situations when you almost always are expecting it to come anyway, because you've sort of read the signs and know, okay, I've neglected myself. So I think, yeah, it makes sense that you come around. So hello, my friend. Hello, darkness, my own friend, as the Sound of Silence, the song says. So what I'm trying to say is that the good news, the empowering news is it's up to us. It's free will, basically. If there is one micrograin of sand holding on to dear life, a glimpse of a shred of possibility to go on and start the search, that is the chance, the tiny momentum to get up and look for it. And it might look like 2 weeks in bed and one evening getting up for a walk, and then another 2 weeks in bed, because you're learning, you're starting the art of integrating what is within you, of getting to know you and you. That takes time. And if you want to be the best parent for yourself during that time, patience and love and compassion are the keys to make this process as enjoyable as can be while feeling like, excuse the language, shit. It is not going to be handed to you by someone else. It is not going to be an all fix in one day, 1 week, 1 month, or a year, one program. And once you've known darkness like that, it's training a muscle. Like, it's forever training a muscle to know why it was there, what good it did to you, and how it transformed you to become the person you wanted to be. Either way, all of that said, alone is not going to work. We need to talk about it. We need community. We need to have that shelter, the necessities, the kindness to process these emotions. We need to form the trust to be able to open ourselves up and actually ask people around us if what we feel is something that they can mirror back to us. That is a kind of uncovering who we are, who we want to be, getting to know ourselves and how we are perceived by the external. This needs to come from other people too. It's not just within ourselves. And I myself struggled a lot with that because I cope by being alone, being by myself, and I'm quite comfortable being alone and being by myself for days and weeks on end. So for me, it was the struggle of realizing that, oh yeah, I need people outside of me to reflect back on me and to me where I'm standing right now, if I want to be that person or not. There is also a lot of pain there. There's also a lot of self-forgiveness and ho'oponopono on that part of the journey. But I say that because most people, when they are depressed, they also cut themselves off from community and society. And there's a lot of shame that goes with it because we think we're weak, we think we're not like all the other normal people who are able to cope with life. And that is just not true. It's just we are on a path like anyone else. We express our hopelessness with depression, and in doing so, we carve our own way in our own path out of our own dark inner valley, if you will. So, yes, you're absolutely entitled to withdraw, but know that you need to find people you can trust, and you need to find people where you can build that trust again that has been wounded within. We need to have the environment or form the environment so that we can save ourselves. It's not that you're broken or that you need to become someone better, as what I said before. It is the process of dying internally and look at all the shattered pieces and bleed and cry and scream and rage, and then assemble what you want the new mosaic of you to look like. Form that mosaic from old pieces, from new information, from a vision, a wish, from an idea you want to realize. It's about a series of perpetual moments where you know after dark always comes light, and darkness is actually a friend. And you are on a journey to discover the most important, most warming light within yourself. You are on a journey to discover your heart, your love. And with that said, my wonderful, beautiful, healing, integrating onions, I open my heart wide to you. Be gentle to yourself. Study yourself. Enjoy observing yourself. It is the only way to thoroughly find and heal yourself. It is the only way to evolve, to thrive, to integrate. Know that you are the most precious. You are so full of wonder and beauty and grace, and you are so needed. I see you and I love you very much. Until next time, my beloved fellow healing, integrating, beautiful onions.